Hello, this is episode 202 of live drawing. Tonight we'll be working on some more underpainting for watercolor. We did finish the one we were working on last week, so you can see I posted the whole image. You see that that's 11 by 17, so it's a big piece. I can't even show the whole thing on camera. Maybe if I turn it sideways, I don't know, maybe that would work. Almost, yeah, there we go. Nice zoom out a little bit. There we go, our hand crank zoom. There you can see, and then here's a comic book for comparison, so you can see the size of this thing, just for scale. An old issue of Morbius. Looks like Bob McCloud. Down heckin' Bob McCloud. So, and there's the scale, there's this whole piece. And then this is the other one that we've been working on the stream. I did do some work on it yesterday. You saw in the announcement piece, or if you could see it on social media, you can see where I put the close-up of Caped Cod, and I worked on Arthur some and a little bit on Bumbling Bee and some of the background bits. So we'll be working on that, tonight. I'll put that one aside. This is Payne's Gray. It's what I use for a lot of my underpainting because it's got a very nice, rich tonality to it. And it largely functions the same way as any other watercolor would as far as the pigment goes. Just got a standard round number 4 Princeton brush. I've got a few different tones here. This one's like a medium, and then this one is a light, and then I would say that this one is a base, just so that I can pull it from. So if I need to add a little bit to the medium, or if I want just some darker tones, it's right there. I usually try to keep 3 tones available. Arthur has pretty light colors. He's all white with a pinkish Caucasian skin, so we don't really need to add very much more to him. But our main light sources are from behind and in the front, so it's a two-point lighting that we're trying to keep straight. You can see here on Cape Cod where the forward lighting is here, and then here's the back lighting kind of on the back there, and you can see it in the ink. And our tonality that we add to it is supposed to enhance what we already laid down with the ink. So if we added a big shadow here, there's going to be continued shadow to the end of the form, or wrapping around the form the same way light would on any other form. So that's kind of where we're at. We'll get started. I'm actually glad that I was able to let this sit so that I can run my hand across it and not worry about it. But we're probably going to start with Rubber Ducky, who is the drummer slash vocalist. I just thought it would be a fun gag that both Rubber Ducky and Cape Cod were the singers, because they don't necessarily like each other, and Cape Cod's always been trying to shall we say, get with Bumbling Bee, the wife of Rubber Ducky. Hey, Martha's. I'm all right. How are you? How are you doing tonight? Did you send me your contact info to mail you your stuff? If you did, I missed it. I'm behind on answering messages to people. I just got back to a couple of folks that messaged me like 3 days ago. I don't know if it'd be better to be closer in or further away on this. So. Dennis, I'm all right. How are you? It's glad to see you were slinging some ink, getting some drawings done. It was cool seeing your rendition of Spider-Man. I had a hard time deciding which one I liked, because I did like the white background, just because it was a nice way to feature the work that you put in. Grinding for art fight. I think the closest thing I ever did to that was a long, long time ago. They used to do on the Pencil Jack forums and then later on DeviantArt, the earlier days of DeviantArt. We used to do like jam comics where, someone would do a page with no writing and then pass it off to the next person to do the next page and then the next person, and we would all just contribute pages, and we would write and draw the one page that we contribute. Try not to go too heavy on the tones, but there's some places where it definitely needs a little bit more than others. Yeah, it came out nice. On the backgrounds, yeah. Backgrounds largely take time and just learning like perspective fundamentals. If you wanted to draw Spider-Man swinging, through a city, learning at first 1 point and then 2 point and 3 point perspective. There's a lot of really good resources out there, and I would have to say that they are really good. They would be better than me explaining it because I'm sure they would have pictures and stuff. We've done like the crash course on a prior episode, but I don't think it would be a very good. I think there's better stuff out there for you if that's the kind of thing you wanted to dive into. I know the Kubert School on their YouTube page have a bunch of drawing videos that Joe did that show those fundamentals. So maybe that would be a good resource to direct you to. To the QBs, as they are known. I will not be at San Diego this week. I haven't been in a couple of years. Don't know when or if I'll be back, but maybe sometime. It's one thing that the last couple of years I've really tried to acknowledge and enjoy the how finite those experiences can be. So it's like when I went to Heroes, I don't know if I'll ever be back at Heroes. So I was treating it like, maybe I'll never come back. So. Oh, nice. I do love it. My first comic was a holiday special. I do love a good holiday Christmas special. I would volunteer to do some doodles for that if you need them. Not that you need them, you're doing your own drawings, so you can be a one-man band. My hope was to have time to do a Fat Cat Funnies holiday something, even if it was just like one page with each major set of characters. Like I said, it was my first comic. I always have a soft spot for the holiday stuff. It's an interesting and fun set of what's the best way to put it? Tropes and cultural things that we can weave together. And obviously, if I did like a Helena one, there's no such thing as like these formalized religions that exist in our world. So like they would be different uh, holiday stuff. Yeah, you can DM it to me. You don't have to let it hang out on the internet here, where the AI can steal it and give it to techno oligarchs of the world. What I'm doing here, if people are wondering, is when I load up the brush, because the type of paper this is, And because of how small the area I have to work is I have to have a lot of control, so I can only have so much liquid in the brush, so I have to douse it and get the point to be a little, bit more fine. One of the things I do notice about, going back in with watercolor on this type of papers is I can see where the oils in my hand are sitting on the paper, or they've, become more built up, or if something came off of the eraser that I use, that happens too. And the way the liquid is absorbed or not absorbed by the paper is different. Like it'll create these little pools instead of being, what's the right word? Even. Yeah, the background took some time, but like this is a texture that I've used for curtains before, and it once you put right now it looks very busy, but once you put the flat color on top of it, this texture works really nicely, and that'll actually be a little less busy once the red curtains are behind them. This type of work at this point is pretty mechanical, so it's like just going through, using the experience and skills that I've learned and applying them, in the order that I think they need to be applied. I saved the tick figure for tonight's stream so that we could. I think people would enjoy seeing that being worked on the most. So that's why I left that. I can also tell when I'm getting tired when I'm working on stuff. So if I look at the work, it can be a little bit. What's the word? Stiff, just not as sharp when I'm too tired. There we go. I had never drawn like the stretchy guy superpower before Rubber Ducky, and um, thanks Lefty Blues. Yeah, I worked on the tick for a long time. What I was actually going to say is I was the artist and the writer on the book that revealed that we finally had Rubber Ducky and Bumbling Bee get married. Um, we were going to do a big wedding. We did the proposal in an issue, and then we were going to do a big wedding issue. And NEC kind of backed out of it, and it kind of left fans hanging. And you know, I didn't know of a better way to get it in there other than to make it something that happens off camera and that the Tick and Arthur have to get to, and then of course they're late. Um, so that's understandable. Some people just aren't into the silly holiday stuff, so don't sweat it. I just have a soft spot for it because it was my first comic book. All right, like I said, our two main light sources you can see are being reflected by the amount of ink that's here. So like there's some shadow down here and then a little bit here, but we've got our backlight and our forward light. So we have to be cognizant of that as we're rendering. So I like to go in with like a nice light um, light wash first, and then kind of gives me an idea where everything needs to go. I'll go in and make what I'm doing is I'm making decisions of boundaries for tonality right now, and then that's kind of where we go from. This is Payne's gray. It's a gray that has a blue twinge to it, and I will use this for my underpainting, and then we'll paint the colors on top of it. Here's the one that we did last, the previous one, which was a commission for the Tick fighting the Legion of Superheroes characters. So you can see here, the underpainting is still here. You can see that Payne's gray is still there, but we put the blue colors on top of it, and it creates a greater depth of color. So that's how I do this type of a colored cartoon drawing. Um, but yeah, that's what happens with the underpainting. You can see the underpainting right here, right here. There's some in the face. This is just the first layer of color, or of the coloring process. It's picturing, working on the values before the hues. Yeah, this is just on regular Bristol. You know, the color sits kind of on top of the paper, and it gives you some little bit more freedom, and you can make mistakes and kind of move things around still a little bit when it's like that. I've also used mixed media board, which is more geared towards wet medium and watercolors. But in this case, they wanted a piece that was bigger than the stuff that they make, so I had to go with the Bristol. I've also done illustration board on the channel before, which it's a wonderful material. It's just expensive. And it's mostly watercolor, and then I'll use a little bit of colored pencil for some touch up at the very end. And then sometimes I'll use some acrylic paint as well. So go ahead and grab a little bit of this, and we'll start to. Do it just a little more. You know, when people see my watercolors in person and the color pieces, they ask how I get watercolor that vibrant, and this underpainting process is very much part of it. If you look at like artists like Alex Ross and Bill Sienkiewicz, they will use this technique for their work as well. So it's not like I'm pulling it out of my rear. And there are some people that are really wonderful with using markers for this sort of stuff, and I'm just not one of them. For some reason, I have a hard time with that medium. Um, but with this, because I can control the tonality and how much ink I have or how much paint I have a much better grasp on connecting the dots. Christmas will be canceled. See, and that's just fun. That's just fun. It's not too heavy, you know. Yeah, I'll have to check it out on YouTube. And because we're using Bristol, we do have like some leeway. Like we can go back in and almost erase by adding water and pulling it off of the surface. We've shown that technique on the channel before, but you can see where it's starting to come together. And you see for that backlight source, you'll see along the edge, there's just little bits of light around the outside that we leave there. And we're not even going to put any blue paint there when we add blue to it. Just a little bit there. I think we all remember the Rankin Bass stop motion holiday specials. I think everybody here is old enough for that. If this were marker, this would be going back and forth with like the 20% warm or cool gray. $8:30 already. Time is flying this evening. And see, I'll go in and I'll make little fixes as I go along, just as I see things. I wish I could give a better reason why I do those little moves, but sometimes like I've said, it's from the gut, and I'll see something that needs to be smooth, and you know, I do know that there's a lot of change that happens between now and the final product, but sometimes I just want to fix it as I'm going rather than hoping to remember it for later because I will forget. What does Payne's gray mean? It is a color. Uh, it was a color by George. Uh, is it Thomas Paine? I'm trying to remember. William Payne. William Payne. But it was a color that was used by an artist for a long time, and uh, it was his own mixture of iron blue. And it's a blue that I've just used for a very long time, and um, it's named after the artist that made it. So I'm guessing he didn't license it, so he probably does not get a. His family probably doesn't get a nickel every time I buy a tube of it or whatever. But I like to get all the tonality done all at once, so that's one of the reasons why I adopted this methodology for my painting and coloring, just because it helps me to keep it organized. And prior to adopting this method, I would, make more mistakes, get lost, forget where I was going. You know, so this kind of having a defined process for do this, then do this, then do that was helpful to me for this type of finish that we're working on. Like when I'm doing freeform painting, I don't always do um, underpainting just because it is a very long process and it is an extra step. And other people will use more earth tones. If you look at the brothers Hildebrandt, if you're familiar with their stuff, and Frank Rosetta, he used, yellow ochre and umber and burnt sienna, and like that was kind of his uh, basis for his color palette when he would start doing his underpainting, or if he was in a rush and he had to knock it back. Like if you look at the Neanderthals painting, he used basically titanium white, yellow ochre, and I don't know if it's raw umber or burnt sienna, but he has a brown that he would use, and that would be his preferred underpainting color. And for this case, there's going to be a little bit of extra coloration that comes from the light sources. So there's going to be a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, and then you'll see, because actually there will be a step between this and the tonality probably, unless I want to put it on top at the end, which can be good visually, but it can also make me not want to do it. Like I'll chicken out and be like, oh, I don't want to put a bunch of red on this guy just because of the lights. But if that's what the piece calls for, then that's what it calls for. Yeah, I just found that it fits, Payne's Gray also just fits with my preferred, hues, so, like, it works well with, my preferred paints. That's one of the reasons I stuck with it. This is, the tick playing the triangle with a spoon, which is just it's a very on the nose joke, visual gag, but I find that stuff like that, people will be, like, a little cringe at first, but then, when they sit with the piece for a while, they're like, "Yeah, it's kinda cute." So but this is a very literal interpretation of an illustration. I'm not adding subtext with different textures or lighting, which is something I do um, in my work. I just didn't do it on this piece. I find that most people who commission a picture of character X, Y, or Z, they have a very specific thing in their mind, even if they're not sure that they do. And I've done experimental coloring on pieces before where I've done different lighting or different stuff, and people have not been as happy. So I don't do it as often as I once did. That's starting to come together. You can see where the light comes from. You can see how it's affecting things. You can see how it interacts with the shapes. That's what we're aiming to have here tonight. If I can at least get the Payne's Gray done, I would feel good about completing it this week. It's just very labor intensive. Hey, good to see you, Mike. Glad you could make it. Glad you could make it, sir. We're working on another Tick and Company painting slash drawing. Color drawing is the correct term for what this technique is. You could also just say illustration if we wanted to be more general and not have the art establishment get angry at us for misidentifying our work. Thirsty. We have background elements that need some tonality too. Arthur's keyboard is basically two tone. Like I said, this was kind of based on a club I used to be around in JP, and all of their amps and stuff had stickers all over them. Letting the tick dry a little bit so we can layer some more tones on them once I get this cleared up. I wish I had a bigger desk to just like swing the paper around, but I do not. I have a small desk. Working on anything good tonight, Mike? Doing some sketches or just hanging out, relaxing? Get our syringe here and get a little water. Start a third tone. Nice. What have I read lately? I read the Torpedo 1972 from a Blaze, which is a continuation of that Geordie Burnett Torpedo crime noir series. I didn't know it existed, but I was at Rubber Chicken and they had a sketch cover of it, and decided to give it a read. And it's drawn by Eduardo Rizzo, who, if folks out there don't know, he's a terrific artist. He drew 100 Bullets. He's drawn all kinds of stuff. He did the Sergeant Rock series that Bruce Campbell wrote, which was excellent. So there you go. If you don't know Eduardo Rizzo, I would highly recommend checking out his work. Thank you. It's a very silly picture. So I showed the inks to the person who commissioned it, and he was happy. So hopefully, I will not mess up the colors, and we can all be happy that the transaction occurred. I don't know. I have a love hate relationship with doing private commissions, because also like I've drawn some stuff that I'm really proud of that like nobody ever gets to see, so it just goes into a binder somewhere, and that's the end of it. But as many of my employers would say in a very crude way, that's what the money's for. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't look at my work the same as I did, let's say 5 years ago in that as far as the commodification goes. It's as much about time as it is anything else. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can show you. Oh, nice. Yeah, The Tick is on Netflix, both live action series. Here's what the finished stuff one looks like. Here's a different one that we did where it's the Tick fighting characters from the Legion. The person was a big Legion fan and they wanted to commission him fighting Karate Kid and some of the other characters. And so, but yeah, that's what the hues will look like on top. This part is just using Payne's Gray, just because that's my preferred underpainting color for the values. And then, yeah, we'll go back on top and add the colors to it. Just a way for me to keep it organized in my head so that it's a consistent finish. When I'm doing work for myself or experimenting, I just free form it sometimes, or if I do an underpainting, I'll experiment with different colors or whatever. But I feel like people have a very expected outcome when they commission a private commission. Thank you. I was never a Legion of Superheroes guy. I read all sorts of different stuff, Giffen stuff. I read the Lanning, Abnett, Coipel stuff. Tried reading the Mark Waid stuff. It just never grabbed me. Some people love it, go on loving it. More Legion comics for those folks. We will never be on two ends of the same eBay auction for them. That's better for both of us. I've done it that way too, where I'll just do the ink wash, and then a long time ago, that was how I did some coloring for some books that I worked on. What project was that? I'm trying to remember. I think it was some of the altered reality comic stuff where I did ink wash, or at the time might have been even using marker, and then I scanned it in, and then I selected each section and changed the colors that way. Another tedious process. At this point in my life, I try to get off the computer as much as I can. Thank you. That was actually one of the first things that Ben told me when he saw Ben Edlin told me when he saw my issues of the Tick. I worked on the book for over 10 years. Did basically, if you have any free comic book day issues, you probably have something that I did. Yeah, I draw the Tick's chin like a boot, basically. And I remember at one of the first shows where Ben and I were signing together. I think it was at New York Comic Con. I asked him, what, because I would look at you're told to look at Ben's stuff, of course, because he created the character and the look and everything. And I would ask him, like, how come he drew, if you looked at the Tick and you made a 3D model of his two drawings, from one panel to the next, they would be two totally different shapes. And I asked him, how come you drew it like that? And he said, because I felt like it. And it's a very Ben answer if you ever get to meet and know Ben at all. but my brain didn't work that way, so I had to basically pick one shape and stick with it. And this is one of the shapes of early Edlund, at least close to it. I've obviously it's my own shape and changed over the years, over 10 years of doing it. But like that was kind of the origin of how I draw the chin. I was looking at the reference that I was told to look at, and I picked one, and I basically said we're going to keep it consistent as like a 3D model. I forgot to plug it, but there is a new. Oh, it's not my own character at all. I was hired to draw those issues. There is a new issue of Planet Comics. I forgot to plug it in the video description, which has a new Tick story, which is on Kickstarter right now. So if you want the newest Tick adventure, head over to Kickstarter and search for Planet Comics. He could, yes, he could sell ad space on that chin. Actually, have to get a smaller brush for this next part. Yeah, sorry, Jeff. I meant to put the link in the comments or in the description. I've been sharing it on my social media, so if you follow me, it's all over that. I know when I'm getting out the teeny tiny brush that I'm going too far. But we do need to work on the floor here, so let me remove some stuff so that I can move the paper up. Oh yeah, Ben completely owns the Tick outright. So he does not own all the characters from all the iterations of the shows. Like he does not own Deflator Mouse or American Made. Same thing with the other ones from that era of live action. Fox and / Disney now owns all those. But anything that was in the original comics that he worked on, he owns all of that stuff. So like Chairface, the Red Scare, the Terror, like all those characters he owns. Arthur, of course. Paul the Samurai, Chainsaw Vigilante. but he doesn't own the characters to like the characters that Eli or I or Eli Stone or Gabe Crate or any of the other creators or Sean Wong created Rubber Ducky and Bumbling Bee and Cape Cod. You know, they kind of became the supporting characters. Well, yeah, and if you don't know, which you may not, he's married. Um, Ben is married to uh, a lady who is a producer over at Netflix. Jenny has been working there for ages. She was the showrunner. Jennifer Klein. She was the showrunner on The Witcher and a bunch of other shows. So well, American Made wasn't really in the comics, the ones that were original. They had a character called Oedipus, and it was a definitely an Elektra from Daredevil homage, shall we say. Yeah, New England Comics owns all the like the random characters that the rest of us that work there made up, but Ben owns the Tick and the original stuff. I know working on the background's not the most exciting thing to watch, but it is important. Got to try to get the gaps in the shadows right, because they're actually more important than getting the shapes right. It's the places where light shows that I think people are more cognizant of. The Red Scare was in the TV show, but Ben does own that since it was in the original comics. Like I said, same thing with the Terror. Yeah, if you read the complete Edlund, which is the trade that collects all of his stuff from the newsletters and the original 12-issue run, that'll give you the entire thing of his what he owns. The Tick and Arthur, which was done by Wong, which is just a delightful read. And then, like I said, I did basically all the specials, one shots, and convention books that we did for for over 10 years. So if you see any like San Diego specials or Boston or New York, or we did one for Rhode Island, we did Baltimore, we did all kinds of stuff. So like any of those I worked on, and then the free comic book days were actually the books of the Tick that sold the most copies ever. So like those are the most prevalent ones out there. Thrakazog, another good one for um, Pineapple Ponkapo. I like the Sewer Urchin. I enjoyed that character quite a bit from the cartoon show. I've done signings with pretty much everybody from the shows. At San Diego, the year the Amazon show now on Netflix came out, like the entire cast was there and everybody hung out and we signed stuff. And um, I've done signings with Griffin Newman on different occasions, and Patrick Warburton was at Rhode Island. We did a signing and a panel together. Um, yeah, the Tick is a cult thing, but it's had a long life. The guy that played Ramses was very into the comics, and so was Jackie Earl Haley, who played the Terror in that show. He was a nice guy, and he still loves the character. We both contributed to the Tick celebration that was done in Hollywood that year, like a couple years ago, that Isaiah ran. Isaiah pops in every now and again. He's a nice, really nice, huge Tick fan. Um, I've always said that when I write or read The Tick, I hear Townsend Coleman's voice, but if I were to, as great as Peter was, and I think his season two performance and season two in itself of the Amazon show is a perfect season of The Tick because Ben was the showrunner, and that's like the tone fits what he would have done perfectly. So Eli Fivestone is here, who has a brand new Tick cover out on Planet Comics. And he just did the artwork for one of the new Tick toys that just came out. He did the box artwork. So we've got Tick royalty with us this evening. Thanks, Eli. There's some little goofs here and there that I wish I could fix, but like I've just got to keep plowing forward. I will tell you that ruling all those little lines for the I mean, Ben ran both seasons at Amazon, those of the show, but I would say season two is perfect. Like Lobstercules, just chef's kiss, wonderful, excellent character. Um, no spoilers. Ben was a showrunner on Supernatural for years. He went over to TV after the Tick show, and he worked on all the what's his face, Joss Whedon shows, among other things. Thank you. Yeah, this is the first step of the coloring process, is to get all of the tonality sorted out before we do any of the hues. So, like I said, I started using this just to keep it organized in my head. You can see the shadows are kind of going away from where those light sources are. We've got a little more we got to put on this side, but I think we're just going to do the Payne's gray tonight. We're not going to get into the yellow. I don't want to rush that because these lights are different colors, so those colors are going to reflect on the characters. So we've got to get those sorted out before I've got to label these basically before we get into that. Before Eli and I were corresponding on social media and such, and telephone calls and things like this. I actually bought a Tick signed comic by Eli Stone off of the eBays just because I wanted one as a fan. It's in one of the many boxes in that closet over there. I don't know exactly where. Have I ever considered a TikTok live draw / auction? No, because I generally don't think I have the demand for my work to justify doing a live auction, if I'm being blunt. I don't want to be embarrassed by like sitting by myself, like, please, someone bid $1. And I don't want to sell my work short. So I tend to be strategic with that stuff. That's one of the reasons I stayed away from WhatsApp. I know some people have a lot of success with it, but I just don't think that my work has the demand at that level to sustain that. I wish it did. It's a good title. It's a great idea. But I don't know if I'm just being too fuddy-duddy over it or thinking about it too much, but got the Boston show coming up August 7th. Hopefully people will stop by and say hello. I did just agree in principle to another show, and I will announce that date if everything gets finalized, if slash when. So, see, I just noticed I made a mistake here. Yeah, Whatnot. That's correct. Yes, I have some friends that do really well on Whatnot. So, but I don't know. You've got apparently you've really got to like do it regularly to build up a non like immediate audience because like the number of people that I would say are like my audience is like my friends that are here, a few other folks that pop in every now and again, and they support me, and I don't know. I'm very cognizant of not wanting to ask too much from them and ask for too many things, put out too many things too regularly to oversaturate my market. It's been pretty sustainable. Not big, but just it's been able to take care of itself, and it's why I pick up the day job and have the corporate work. So I have health insurance and electric bills paid and things like that. It does mean that I end up working ridiculously late at night on stuff, but that's the trade-off. Maybe someday I'll get back to being a full-time artist, but the financial world and my existence as it stands now. Although I am going to be doing some painting and drawing for my day job, which will be great. I'll be doing that this week, which I'm excited about. And there's another thing that I can't announce through my day job that'll be another creative project that's coming out. I'm just waiting for the files to go to the printer before I tell anybody. I do creative services. I do logos, websites, graphic design, all kinds of stuff, video editing, consulting. Um, my day jobby stuff is still creative work. So I'm in Adobe products 12 hours a day. Yeah, I've always done corporate work, so it's nothing new for me. I just don't trust a single income on comic books at my level. If I was at the level where I could, set up my own absolute Batman variant covers and things like that and float that kind of money, I'm sure I'd be doing okay. But I don't have those resources. Oh, very cool. Yeah. You probably know my buddy Ron Mars. He does work for them. Oh, thanks. And then the audience is basically going to be flat blue, just like it would if it was mimicking, vintage printing. When I'm picking colors for a tick piece like that, I generally try to limit it to the 64 colors of presses from like the 40s up to the early 90s. I love drawing different textures of hair. So we got like wavy, we got pointy, we got curly. We've got this long, shiny. Hair is actually fun to draw when you can layer it and do different lighting to it. So, all right. Well, I think we're pretty much done for tonight. Um, Ginger Bear House, I will check out your channel if you got one. But this is the last one of the month, and then next stream, actually next stream will not be the first one of the month. So the stream that'll be on the 5th, like we talked about last episode 200, the first stream of every month is going to be a sketch cover giveaway. So we'll work on the sketch cover on the stream on the 5th, and we'll just raffle it off to whomever is on the comments. We use the comments like raffle tickets, and I just use a random number generator. So hope to see you next week. Hope everyone has a good weekend, and thanks for hanging out tonight. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Good night, everybody.